On July of 2012, Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg took a 30-year mortgage to finance his $6 million Palo Alto home, which is 3 miles from Facebook's headquarters. As a 28-year-old and the world's 40th wealthiest individual at the time, with a net worth of $15.6 billion, why would you go into debt when you have billions of dollars and can simply pay it back? He could easily buy a dozen $6 million homes in cash with one push of a button if he were so inclined. So what was on his mind? Why'd he get a mortgage? The explanation is a bit complicated and lengthy, but the main idea is that it's free money. It's confusing, I know. He's already a billionaire. Who would give Facebook's founder free money? Allow me to explain. It all boils down to interest rates. Inflation in the United States ranges between 2.5% to 3%, making any money you borrow that is less than the rate of inflation as free money. The rate on Zuckerberg's mortgage is slightly over 1%, but it's adjustable. That is, depending on the conditions. The rate may rise for one reason or another. When you do the calculation, you'll notice that the bank is losing money because the mortgage rate is lower than the inflation. It's pretty simple, really. Let's imagine that you borrowed $1 million at a 1% interest rate. The average savings account rate of return is 2.4%. If you deposit the $1 million that you just borrowed in another bank, you will earn $24,000 a year while you pay the bank that lent you the money a mere monthly payment of $10,500. Just imagine what you could do with $100 million, or dare I say, $1 billion. When you can borrow money for free, there's no sense in tying up your own cash when you could be spending it on something more beneficial. Naturally, when dealing with small sums of money, this sort of won't make any sense because the difference isn't really that great. However, when it comes to large numbers, playing around with 1, 2, or even 0.5% could potentially get you dozens of thousands of dollars. Let's say that you're a businessman who can easily afford $1 million yacht. Why buy a yacht when you can finance it for 1 or 2% while you invest the rest of that money in your business? That would potentially get you 10, 20, or if not 30% returns. Even if you find it too time-consuming to find a more profitable strategy to invest your money, simply putting it all into an index fund can be much more rewarding, especially when we're looking at far into about 20 or 30 years. An index fund's average rate of return has been shown to be 8% in the past. If you take out a mortgage and invest the difference in an index fund, the difference will be returned to you. It's all about the opportunity cost. It wouldn't make sense for Zuckerberg to pay cash for the house when he's been offered a 1% mortgage rate. But he's not the only one who thinks that way. For example, most of Elon Musk's fortune is tied to Tesla and SpaceX. So if he wanted to buy a mansion for $20 million, he'd have to sell a significant portion of his wealth, pay taxes, and incur other costs. He can, however, accept free money while keeping his monthly payments inside his budget. He took out a $61 million mortgage for 5 properties in California, paying $180,000 every month. By the way, billionaires aren't the only ones that do this. It's also something that reasonably wealthy individuals like Jay-Z and Beyonce do. They took out a loan to purchase their $88 million home. They put down 40% and will finance the remaining $52.8 million. The pair is now responsible for $150,000 in monthly payments. The national median home value is roughly $200,000 in comparison. Instead of tidying up his $53 million house, he knows exactly where to put it to make the most money. At the end of the day, he's made plenty of outstanding investments and is on his way to being a billionaire. The richer you get, the more ways you'll find to make more money. But let's be honest, not everyone gets such a low mortgage. Nationwide, it's around 3%, but even at that rate, it still doesn't make sense to purchase a house if you can finance it. However, just let me make this clear. Why do the super rich get a lower rate in the first place than the rest of the country? First and foremost, when you're a billionaire, the bank can relax knowing that no one is afraid that you'll fail on your own loan. In the event that things go wrong, you can easily sell a portion of your business to repay the debt. This removes the element of risk from the equation. Compare that to the average employee who may become ill and unable to work, or who may lose their job for a variety of reasons. Second, paying your mortgage on time every month aids in the development and maintenance of a good credit score. So if you have a good credit score, borrowing money from the banks will be much easier in the future. You're essentially establishing trust with the financial institutions. But it might also be the other way around. Banks may give such cheap mortgage rates in order to build good relationships with wealthy individuals, so that when their business requires a loan, they would turn to them rather than their competitors. This is a win-win situation. But these low mortgage rates are adjustable, which means, as I said earlier, they could go up. But no one is worried, because if it stops making sense economically to these ultra-rich people, they can easily pay back their mortgage. But most people associate that with something negative because we usually borrow money that we can't afford for entertainment and end up paying a lot more back. In fact, right after college, you realize what a burden your student loan is already. Once you calculate how many years it would take to pay back the debt, you instantly create the impression that debt is bad, especially since you won't be able to default overnight. It's not easy to tinker with debt. You're eventually going to take a significant risk, and even a minor mistake can have serious impacts. In fact, we've gotten ourselves into so much debt that most people can't even afford a $500 bill because of the monthly payment. That is, however, what distinguishes bad debt from good debt. If you're not careful, debt may ruin your life, leave you homeless, and cripple your family. However, because it is leverage, it may make you quite wealthy if you know how to use it. Leverage is sort of a superpower that allows you to become wealthy quickly. So let's pretend you bought this motorcycle for $10,000 and sold it for $11,000 on the market. Congrats, you made a $1,000 profit just now. However, if you apply leverage, you may borrow $990,000 and add $10,000 to make $1 million. You go to a supplier and buy 100 bikes for $1 million, then sell them for $1.1 million on the open market. But you still owe the bank, so you return to the bank and repay them $990,000 plus $10,000 in interest. Now you're left with $100,000. After you deduct your own $10,000, you're left with $90,000 of pure profit. That's how you make money when you don't have money. The bank made their share of the profit and you made yours. Although be careful if you plan to take this formula to the extreme, because if it's not regulated by the government and practiced by everyone in the Wall Street, it turns into a financial crisis as it happened in 2008. Remember when home prices collapsed, bringing the entire economy down with them? Because investment banks utilize leverage to boost their profits, their plan has backfired. Because they started issuing mortgages to people who didn't have the ideal credit scores and weren't financially able to make the monthly payments, they defaulted on their mortgages. As expected, it was a nightmare for investors because property values had been rising for 40 years and then unexpectedly begins to fall. Although we're not going to go deep on the specifics of this event. That's a story for another video. But it's a significant tool for how wealthy people make money. Of course, it's risky and you could lose everything. However, if you know what you're doing, you can make a fortune in a matter of days. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of wealth building videos, consider subscribing and clicking on the bell so you won't miss a single video. Thanks for watching, and until next time.